The evening sky over the wide Texas prairie glowed with the last embers of sunlight, the horizon a painted fire of gold and crimson as the rancher, Cole Harding, returned from the north pasture. Dust caked on his boots and the scent of leather, sweat and horse clinging to him like a second skin, his eyes sharp as hawk talons scanning the barns out of long habit, because in land like this a man lived by vigilance, not just for rustlers or wolves but for shadows that did not belong. And that was when he saw her, thin and weary, framed by the weather-beaten wood of the henhouse, her dress torn and faded, hair falling in loose waves across her face as she clutched a basket to her chest and froze in the half-light like a frightened deer, her eyes darting to the doorway as though measuring the distance for escape. And he knew before she spoke or moved that she wasn't one of his hands, wasn't kin, wasn't meant to be there at all. Yet something in her stance, defiance mixed with desperation, stilled his voice and held him there a moment longer, until he stepped forward, the crunch of his boots over gravel echoing like a drumbeat between them, and she lifted a knife in her trembling hand, though her knuckles were white with fear. The blade rusted but angled like she meant to use it, her shoulders squared, though a fresh wound on her arm told him she had already tasted struggle that day, maybe worse, and Cole's jaw tightened. His instinct to disarm her fighting against the tug of something else, something softer that came unbidden when he saw the pain carved into her eyes. And he said in a voice calm yet commanding, "You've got two choices, ma'am, work for what you take, or take my name and claim more than eggs." She blinked, confusion flashing in her gaze as she clutched the basket tighter, the fresh brown and white eggs clinking softly like fragile treasures, her lips parting to speak but faltering, as if no man had offered her more than suspicion in years. And Cole studied her then, every detail, the dirt smudged on her cheek, the thinness of her wrists, the way hunger and pride ward in her posture, and he realized she wasn't just stealing to feed herself, no. This was the act of someone who had mouths waiting, little ones perhaps, or someone too weak to fend for themselves, and though her body screamed exhaustion, her spirit burned bright as any flame. So he took another step, arms folded across his chest, and waited patient as a mountain, until at last she lowered the knife, though not her guard, and her voice cracked like dry timber when she whispered, "I don't need a man's name, and I've worked all my life, but I've got nothing left but these hands, and they're blistered raw." And Cole heard the truth in it, the widow's ache behind her words, the way life had stripped her down to bone and willpower, and his heart, which he kept locked beneath. Years of solitude since his own kin had been taken by fever, shifted in his chest, though he didn't show it. Instead, he asked the question a second time, steady and firm, "Then is it work you want, or something more?" Her eyes glistened, though she blinked the tears back, and for a heartbeat the silence between them was louder than thunder, broken only by the restless cluck of the hens and the distant howl of a coyote on the ridge. And slowly she answered, "Work. I want to earn what I take. Nothing more." And though Cole nodded, respecting the steel in her voice, he saw the way her fingers trembled around the basket, and he thought to himself that sometimes a woman's pride was the only thing standing between her and the grave. So he offered her the smallest of smiles, rare and fleeting, and said, "Then you'll start at dawn, cleaning stalls and feeding stock. It ain't easy, but nothing worth living is." And though she still looked at him with mistrust, as if she feared the world had no more kindness left, he noticed the way her shoulders sagged with relief, the way her breath caught as though a weight had been lifted, and in that moment, under the fading light of a Texas sky, a strange bond was forged, not of love yet not of trust, but of survival in the unspoken, understanding that sometimes mercy and strength walked hand in hand. And as Cole turned to lead her back to the ranch house, he knew the days ahead would test them both, not just with labor but with the ghosts each carried, hers carved in grief and hunger, his buried deep beneath the land he fought to protect. And neither of them realized then that fate had already set them on a trail where work and name, pride and surrender, would become tangled in ways that would change not just their lives but the whispers of the whole town beyond the prairie, because nothing stays secret forever under the open sky. And when a widow dares to take eggs and a rancher dares to offer more, the story doesn't end at the barn door. It only begins. And if you're ready to ride with them on this journey of struggle, fire, and the kind of love that blooms in the dust, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the next chapter of their tale. The dawn broke hard and unrelenting, The kind of Texas sunrise that split the horizon, with streaks of molten fire and painted. The land in gold too fierce, for eyes still heavy with sleep, and Cole Harding was already awake, saddle creaking under the weight of his frame as he cinched his horse for the day, his mind restless with the decision he'd made the night before, because taking in a widow who'd been caught stealing was not the sort of thing a rancher did lightly, especially one with a reputation as hard as his. But something in her eyes, sorrow laced with grit, had left him unable to send her away,